started off as a programmer many years ago, still technical. But this, sorry, just bear with me a minute. But about 6 or 7 years ago, I came across some technology at Chatsworth Fair, and it was like virtual reality, and it really kind of inspired me. You know, my day job is delivering ERP systems and doing all this, you know, doing data strategies and digital strategies. And I found this really engaging and exciting, you know, the virtual reality and the way that it was being used to gather people's thoughts and insights. And so I approached the company again, you know, as part of our BCS ethics and our code of conduct, really trying to do something, give something back into the community. So I approached this small organisation, which is called Digital Urban, and we agreed to collaborate. So my role there is an advisor. I've helped them scale up the business, operationalize the business. I'm not an expert on the models that I'm going to show you today. I'll probably go and do that when I retire and learn how to do it, just for a bit of fun. But fundamentally, what I want to talk about today is how this digital technology, digital twins, and in fact, we're going to touch on virtual reality, is being used in local authorities, and specifically as part of the urban planning process. So the urban planning process, you know, I'm just going to say basically, you know, you want the town's going to change, a new developer comes along, they need to do an application, and it has to go through this long process. So that's what we're going to look at today. I'm going to make it very high level, but you know, if there are any other lower level questions that you want to ask, and if I can, I'll answer them at the end, or quite happy to take questions offline. Okay. Oops, my screen isn't scrolling. Okay, so I'm going to cover the following agenda today, which is we're going to talk about the theory of digital twins. We're going to talk about, do some examples of how digital twins are being used across the globe. We're going to look at this specific example or in the UK of where it's being used in the urban planning process. And I'm also going to give you a high level view of the national agenda as well in terms of digital and data and why local authorities are actually adopting this in their planning process. So I'm going to do that example, and then just kind of starting to expose how virtual reality can be used as a change enabler. So that's really what we're going to cover. So the example that I'm using is in local authority, and the public sector is, I've done quite a lot of digital and data strategies for the public sector. And it's hard, right? It's hard because they tend to be cash strapped. Yeah, they've got a lot of services that they have to kind of run for the citizens of the UK. So you know they've got a lot of coverage for the digital strategy. And the other thing around it is that digital technology is advancing at such a pace. You know, I've you know, been around at the forefront of digital for over 40 years now, and it's not slowed down in any way. The kind of challenges that we've got now, you know, I've seen as we've gone through the years, really, you know, project management was a challenge. So all the methodologies came in there. Service was a challenge, ITIL came in there, testing was a challenge, you know, we'd got the test standards that come in. So these kind of, you see all these patterns over time, and the challenges that we're facing today are, you know, how to really tame, if you like, AI, Internet of Things, smart technology, because we know that they're going to bring benefit, but the problem is, how do we do that ethically? How do we do it cheaply, and which one should we adopt? You know, so the local authorities and the public sector have got this real problem of they want to improve services and they know that digital can do that, but they've not necessarily got the capability and the funding to do it. But what you'll see today is actually they are doing some things, and I hope you'll be encouraged by what I do show you. Hopefully it will be something that you're not aware of. But digital twins, 3D models and virtual reality are now being adopted by your councils and local authorities. And I'm going to walk you through some of those examples. Okay, just bear with me. So I'm going to start off by just showing, some examples where digital twins are being used across the globe. So it's in the context of citizenship, if you like, and public service. So what we see here is, Seoul, okay, high population, traffic's a problem, digital twins, which is maps of the area of Seoul showing where there's heavy traffic and pollution. You've got Helsinki, which has got climate tracking applications out there that people can see. I think the one that's probably is going to touch us all is the one in Auckland, which is a swim safe. If we think back to 2023, and it was almost in the news every night for a number of weeks, wasn't it? Pollution and people not being able to do open swimming. We'd got the kind of sewage, the waterworks problem. And so what Auckland have done is they basically got a map, they've got a digital twin of their coastline. They've got data that tells them, if there's any outpouring of any sewage anywhere, and swimmers can now check out which beaches are safe to go on. So these things like that. So digital twins are all starting to evolve with different functions, but most of them are around urban planning. If you look at Makarebo, I think that's how you say it, I hope it is, and Helsinki, they're similar to the examples that I'm going to show you today. Yeah, okay, so those are just some examples. Okay, so why am I talking about the urban planning process? Well, the government reviewed the urban planning process a few years ago. And the reason it did that is that it's known to take a long time, right? You put a planning application in and it takes a long time. And I'll explain what the impact of that is in a bit, but the process, they did this review. It's quite an interesting paper, actually. It's called Planning for the Future. It's a bit dated now and it's been superseded with other papers, but fundamentally it said something's got to change. We've got a process that was created in the 50s. It's all very manual. You do an application. They might have a nice web form now on the website that where you put your details in, but fundamentally at the back of that you've got two-dimensional plans of buildings and various other things. It's a process that's very complicated as well. So you put an application in, you say, okay, I want to do this new development, here's my plan. Well, there's so many rules around it, things like put a block of flats up. Yes, well, you can't do that unless it's so many, there's a park within so many meters, or one that we looked at with Cornwall. Actually, it was really interesting. I didn't know any of this, but they were building a hospital, right? So they're looking at redeveloping a hospital site and building, sorry, it wasn't a hospital site. They were going to put a hospital on this site, and basically they couldn't because the public transport wasn't up to it. They would have had to basically move the station closer to it. All these different problems, all these different rules. So you're looking at a paper-based plan of a development and assessing all these factors around it, and no way really to automate that. So everything is pretty much paper-based, and the whole process is costing developers time, it's costing them money, because they start the process, they've done a forecast for their for what their materials are going to cost, assuming that they'll get through the planning process and building can start at a certain time. But because everything's protracted, the materials go sky high, and you know, and yeah, it's got lots of downsides to the process as it stands today. So in the 2023 autumn statement, it was stated by Mr. Hunt, you know, we want to continue working with the Department of Levelling Up Housing and Communities to ensure that council planning departments are properly resourced and have the right skills and experience to deliver effective planning services. So it was, you're going to do it. It's almost an ultimatum, really. You know, we are going to carry on. We are going to find money for it. It has to be done. And if you don't do it, you know, and if the local authorities miss their deadlines, then they might have to refund the application costs back to the developers. So in other words, you know, you've got to buy into this, local authorities, and you've got to change the way that things are done. Okay, so the application process, this manual thing is, as I say, the longer it takes, the more cost it is to the developers. The application comes in, it's very simple. Application comes in, they're supplied with static files, some plans, some CAD drawings, and there might be lots of this, different angles, blah, blah, blah. It's supported by surveys, you know, so as I say, the one that we did in Cornwall was supported by surveys that were around flooding, that were around where old mining sites were. There were lots and lots of surveys. And in that example, there was actually 60 documents, and the documents were circa 100 pages each. They were text-based. Well, how on earth do you find the actual pertinent data in there that tells you whether this development is going to be, you know, kind of built on something that's going to sink or not? You know, it's not easy. It's not an easy process at all. And then when you have got, you know what it is that is going to be proposed, that assessment is very difficult when you're just doing it off paper. Then after that, it has to go to public consultation, right? So what do the public think about this, now that we think it's, you know, it's got some potential? And then there may be revisions and it can be approved or denied. So it's a fairly long process. Okay, and I think just within that, I'll give you an example of a case that I know of. So I've got a friend, and he was opening a new business, and he put his application in, and he'd got everything lined up to go live and open on a certain date, and everything just got stalled, and it was like an extra 6 months on that. And I did speak to one of the councillors that I know, who's on the planning committee, and said, look, you know, there are better ways than this, you know. But his view was, well, that's the way we've always done it. So there is some examples, you know, of people not wanting to change with this process, but you know, the vast majority, as you'll see here, are looking to change this. Okay, so what are the government strategies? So picture this then. So we know we've got this legacy process. This legacy process is costing developers. It's not great for the planners as well, you know, because having to kind of sort through all this information and trying to make sense of you know, surveys, some of them 3 years old, some of them 2 years old. One says one thing, something else, you know, this other document says something else. That's if they can find any information. So that, you know, it's not an exciting process for the local planners as well. So the government strategies have supported funding right through the Department for Levelling Up. So they've done, like, I think it's 3 campaigns now with funding to help local authorities if they provide a business case, right? So they're competing for this money. They have to provide a business case to say, we want to have a go at improving our process, right? The government wants us to do it. You've got planning for the future that says we have to change. We've got a planning white paper that says we have to change. There's a national data strategy that says, hey, you know, there's lots of data out there, go and use it, because that will inform you when you're making decisions about whether a development should get the go or no go. And you've got the national digital strategy that's basically saying, you know, digitalize, because that will make things better than what you've got now. They want to do it, but they need that funding. And Deluc, it's quite interesting. If you look at the quote there from Deluc, right, it basically says there's clearly room to make greater use of experimental methods in all of this. They've adopted an approach which hasn't been kind of dictating of thou shalt do this to the local authorities. What they've said is, right, you've got these problems. We will support you if you do a good enough business case to be experimental in parts of that planning process to make it better. And that's great. That set that appetite within the local authorities. They also approached SMEs like Digital Urban and other SMEs to say, look, you've got digital tools around mapping and virtual reality. Let's think laterally and let's try and work together to come up with some ideas on how we can make this process better. So it's not been kind of prescriptive in any way, shape or form. And that's been really kind of enlightening, really. You know, there's been some great ideas that have come out of this approach. So, and it, you know, for the local authorities that have been able to get some funding, they've really embraced this approach, you know, and as I say, I'm going to walk you through the examples that we've been working with the local authorities for how they've exploited digital twins and virtual reality. Okay, so let's look at this 3D model example here, right? So this is of Wirral, right? That model. That's just a snapshot of the 3D model, and I will show you a little video in a minute that where you can see the model in a bit more format. So with the organisation, and you know, there's other modelling organisations as well. You create your 3D model of the cityscape, and we have tooling on the platform that enables us to, for them to get a 360-degree view. Yeah, so they can go to street level, they can do bird level view, they can rotate, they can go inside, so they can get a full view of the models for the developments and really do an assessment of it in the context of the rest of the city, right? So it does that. We also have functionality that enables it to change the season, right? And that's really important because shadow lines are important. So we can change the time of day, we can change the seasons, you know, so put some snow on there or rain. And all of these are quite influence really the kind of look and feel of the development as well in the context of the city. We can also add data onto there. So we can add flood data, traffic data, historic data. So I said earlier that we did one which was on mining, the mine shafts and various other things in this part of Cornwall. So what they're trying to do here is the local authorities are using the 3D model with the data with it, to basically speed up that whole assessment process. They're not looking through pieces of paper, they're actually navigating their way around the city and the building and looking and seeing whether it passed muster or not. So I'm just going to show you this film now. Little one, it's only a couple of minutes.
It's a new beginning to create healthier, greener places to live and to work. Transforming our high streets, building homes, and creating employment and places to visit. Our digital twins, or models, are built by processing high-resolution aerial photography, and using the latest gaming technology enables you to explore, review shadows, change seasons, and even the weather. These digital models are an accessible and engaging tool.
If you notice on there, I'm just going to stop it a little bit. You see that we've got white buildings at this point, right? So the way that we generate the cityscape is very much taking aerial views. I do have a methodology for that, but I haven't brought that with me today to share. But then we will model without putting all the render on and the look and feel. Any new model that comes in, any new development, that they get fully mapped out and modelled, so rendered, so it looks like a perfect replica of what the developer wants. And you'll see some of those as we go through this film.
Technology in the form of 3D modelling, or known as digital twinning, helps us visualise how our towns and cities can look and provide the foundation for this journey, engaging businesses, working with communities, and attracting investment.
So you see in this part here, what you'll see here is that this is a new market quarter for the Wirral, and the models are fully mapped out with the correct render, and you'll see them evolving, and it's on that basis that the planning team will get a full view. They'll navigate down to the ground level, and they'll go inside and they'll look all around that as part of their assessment.
The model created is owned by the local authority. It is your asset, which can continue to evolve over time, expanding in area and with even greater detail. The models help everyone see the bigger picture, and you can also drop down to street level to walk and explore, reviewing the changes as a pedestrian, cyclist, or driver. Your model will be an asset to help you set out planned growth, support the consultation of your local plan and regeneration framework, whilst providing a working tool for developing your design priorities.
Okay, so just bear with me a minute. Back over here. Sorry, everyone, trying to get back into slideshow. Okay, so I said that Deluc were basically doing funding rounds, and that they've, a number of local authorities have gained funding, right? So we've done work for Watford, Wirral, Reigate, Liverpool, Berwick, and Newquay, and lots of others coming on now across the UK. I think this is their final round, but they've been really good at promoting the not just putting funding together for the local authorities to reinvent their processes, but they've also been good at promoting the ideas and the concepts across the whole of the local authority community to really build that appetite for change. It's been quite interesting, actually, and a very positive experience for me, for sure. So we as an SME have had to basically build our capability as well. We're scaling now at quite a pace, and to some extent that works to my strength. So I'm finding that quite interesting. I've been working with them. We've got proper delivery methodology to service wrap. We really done lots of work to harden the solution and do the whole scaling piece. So I think pretty much we are now, we've got a group of talented modelers, infrastructure people, advisors like me who've got specialisms in kind of digital delivery and technologies. And it's really starting to scale. And I think we are now an agile delivery factory. It's really good to see. One of the things that we put in is a managed service. So you can imagine that if you've got, we had to build that cityscape at a point in time, right? We either use LiDAR data or we do a flight, and the flight basically covers, up and down is taking images of the city, and it's doing like a loop-de-loop. It's not a loop-de-loop, it's going up and down to make sure it's got the full coverage of the area, and taking all the images, and then we do triangulation and build the area up. But so we do the city at a point in time based on those images, but things change, right? So the minute that we put all that together for Watford, there was already 8 developments in the wings that we then had to catch up with and get those modelled onto the model. So we had to put a managed service in. So this now, I think most of our local authorities have adopted this. In some, there's always a little difference with each of them because they've all got different websites and different ways of that developers put their applications in. But fundamentally, what happens is that a new developer comes along, then it's part of that process now. The local planning team say, well, we're not going to, we don't want your application unless it's got a digital model that comes with it that we can supplant onto our digital twin. So this process here is very much the process that we work to. So we have like a 2-week turnaround for modelling. Once we get the plans, we make sure that we QA the model internally. So we make sure that we're not enriching the models in any way. We're doing it verbatim from the plans that were supplied. We do internal checks, and we go back to the supplier, the developer, and get them to check it before we then pass it on to the local authority for them to start their assessment. So, we're already turning that round in about 2 weeks. And then the local authority team have got something which is, a lot easier for them to assess. The thing about, so you can keep on top of change. And I needed to say that we don't change anything, right? Because I'll give you an example. We were building a model for Cornwall. It was a project in Cornwall. And we received the model, and it was part of the access route into a hospital. And when we modelled it, it looked like there was like a 2-foot drop from the end of this model of the development that they put versus what was already there. And sure enough, they hadn't, we could have easily just gone, oh, well, we'll smooth it out. We'll assume that we can smooth it out. But actually, that would have been the wrong thing to do. When we discussed it with the local authority, they said, no, they've done it wrong. They've basically not put it on the right plane here. And if that hadn't been found at that stage, it would have cost hundreds of thousands of pounds further down the actual build stage to correct that. So we're already starting to see examples whereby the models are picking up and averting risk and cost at an early stage. Okay, so LA's local authorities are embracing the technology, and they've got this appetite for change now. The bottles in the legacy process are clearer to them as well, that we're getting asked to do other things, right? We've got this problem, can you help us? And it set this, that quote that I said about Deluxe, about be experimental with digital. It really, we see in those behaviours, they're asking us to help them with data and information management. That's one of my strengths, so that's an area that we're looking at. The surveys, I couldn't believe it. As I say, there was about 60 documents that came with this one one build, and some of them you didn't know which was the right source. You know, something that was 3 years old, was that good enough to use? You know, and where do you look at in this document? There's also other things that are going on in local authorities. So the communities, they're redeveloping their own processes, and this synergy, I think, with agile methodologies. If you look on LinkedIn, I think it was last week, that they actually put something up there, which is, you know what, in these local authority communities, they're starting to build a process that starts with backlogs, like our agile process in digital, and really looking at how they reinvent that one, you know, that legacy process that came in the 1950s, and driving lots of demand from SMEs. But fundamentally, I think what I'm saying here is that greater visualization is definitely aiding that assessment process, and you know, cutting time off the process, and improving that throughput. So, as I say, I don't think it's there yet. I think we've gone from you know, the time is reducing, and therefore the cost to the developers is reducing. There's still an awful lot going on at the moment, and there'll be more to come, you know, so it's not optimized in any way, shape or form at the moment. But we're really pleased with the results that we're seeing, and our clients definitely are. Okay, so hotspot areas that we're being asked for, like I said, you know, so more integration, you know, with flood data. I'm an advocate that, you know, the more data we put into the digital twin, then obviously, you know, it's going to impact on performance and various other things, you know, so we've got to get the balance right with what we do put in there. But that's something that we're working on. So what's the best data layering, if you like, that we put in there? We've been asked for information management solutions, but it's not a document repository. A digital twin is not a document repository, but we do need a way to store that additional data in some way. Infrastructure management, so it isn't just about developments, it's about the highways. Yeah, it's about you know, potentially potholes and things like that, or the policy, dig once policy, right, which you know, I think we've all come across this, haven't we? We're going down the motorway, and you know, and you're in a 50-mile zone, and then then they lift it, and then 2 weeks later you're back in it comes back again for another reason. And in the local authorities there is a dig once policy, and what we're looking to do is try and support that in terms of managing infrastructure and changes that are going on there. And design codes as well. Can we do some automation and build some rules into the platform? You know, such as, if you're going to build some flats here, then it will break the rules if there isn't a park within a certain distance. You know, where you can automate there's some things like that, you know, through logic. So those are the kind of things that we're kind of looking to do. And public consultation, they're asking us to help with public consultation, and that's a section that I want to go on to now. So in Watford, they have, again through DLUC funding, there's a big thing going on at the moment in lots of local authorities around active travel, right? So that's definitely to get people walking more, safe, you know, make the streets and the roads safer, cycle more. And so what we've looked to do is help them with virtual reality, kind of plot out these new active travel routes. The other thing that they've asked, and it's a perpetual problem in the local authorities, is that when they go to public consultation, it's the same cohorts that come back and say something, right? So it's the I don't like it, probably people more in, you know, not dissimilar from to me really, you know, have some kind of interest, have some time, have an opinion, right? Very opinionated, and it's the same kind of small demographic who respond really to public consultation. And yet a lot of the development in local authorities is around things for the future. So the younger cohorts are the ones where they do want to capture opinion. So we've been doing quite a lot of work in schools with virtual reality. We've been doing quite a lot of work in streets, like events with councils. And what I'm going to show you now is the Watford. It's called the Watford Green Loop, and it's part of their active travel. And it's the way that we mapped it out, this new kind of roadway, if you like, and then talk you through the public consultation that we help with. So just bear with me a minute. Okay, so this here is now just snapshots of the route that we took for the active travel. So that wasn't meant to go all around the route. It's just snippets that we put into a video, really, for the purpose of this. Just bear with me a minute while I get the slideshow back up and running. So that that video was showing you how we'd basically plotted out, modelled the new route. We did a lot of work with the planning team and the design team as well. So it wasn't just the local authorities, they were working with architects, design teams, the kind of rules and the markings that they needed on the route. So we simulated all of that. We had to go through lots of tick boxes with different stakeholders to get that signed off to say it represented what they wanted it to represent. And then we took it to 3 events, right? So the purpose for the local authority is, there is a national active travel agenda. This is what we want to do in Watford. We need to now to take that out to a varied cohort. We don't just want to put, like you see in the streets every now and again, a white sheet of paper that, on a lamppost. That used to be the way they did it, saying something's going to change around here. If you're not happy, then go and speak to phone your council and tell them. What they wanted to do was be really proactive. So they set us up with 3 participation events. The first one was at the Watford Big Sports event, which was in the town, and it was great fun. So we took the rickshaw. We actually had a rickshaw and a physical one. We took it into the streets of Watford. And we were running the VR there, and we were getting people's opinions. We got a really good spread of demographics from. I think our first customer was 89. She really enjoyed it. In fact, I was the first one. I had the first go on it. I was the guinea pig. But we got a good spread. The kids loved it. We got somebody from who's a stuntman on the Games of Thrones turned up, and he really enjoyed it. We got lots of feedback, and it's not even though it was fun, the kind of feedback is fairly rounded. So we got quite a bit of feedback around, yeah, it's a good idea, but we want cars on the road, So it was it was quite interesting to get that. The council were extremely pleased with the amount of feedback that we got. And you know, they're working through it now as they go through the next phase. The second event was at the skate park. So in that visualization, you saw some domes. So we went to the skate park, and that was probably the least successful, because why do people go to a skate park? They go to actually skate, you know, so they weren't bothered about going on virtual reality. So you know, that one didn't work too well. And then the third one we did in a school, and that was really successful. And I'm going to show you a film of that, but also the lead planning, lady there, Carmel, who's going to explain why they're using virtual reality and the benefits to them. Please be aware there are children on the film. We've followed all GDPR. It's on their, it is public, it's on their website, and we are allowed to use it. So I shall show you that now.
We've been using 3D technology now for a while in our planning process. The purpose of today, we're proposing a new green route around Watford Town Centre for cycling to promote sustainable travel. So what we're doing is we're using our 3D model and VR technology to involve our residents so that they can put the VR set on and actually visualise and bring the green cycle route to life.
I really like the experience. It's like real life, and like I think we should have those cycling things too. It looked really realistic.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
It looked very realistic, and like we were actually in town.
They can cycle around Watford, see what it is we're proposing, and provide feedback based on a sort of real experience of that.
So I've never been on one of them before. Literally, when you put that headset on, you're just in a different world. Honestly, it was so cool. Like you were driving through Watford on a bike, and it was just, I felt like real life. And then as soon as I took the headset off, I was like, oh, I wanted to stay on it. It was really fun. I liked it.
It was a really good experience for me because I've never ridden a bike before, but I'm planning to. But that was like my first ever like virtual game experience, and I really liked it.
Okay, bear with me. So I think that's basically it from me. I just wanted to, as I say, keep it fairly high level at this point. Just demonstrate really how digital solutions, digital twins, 3D models are in fact improving the spaces, if you like, where you live, and if not now, it will do in the future. And that you know, you've got some confidence that your local authorities are starting to move from the 50s into this digital world. Money obviously is the issue, and that virtual reality, what we found is that it can be used as a change enabler. It can support that change, you know, getting people to immerse in the experience with virtual reality. It gives you a greater kind of reserve of cohorts, if you like. It pulls in more of the kind of demographic spread, and you can get very good feedback from it. So I think that's it from me. Anybody got any questions? But I'll hand over to Matt.
Well, thank you so much, Sharon. Thank you so much. Like I said, I will be handling the question. So our first question is from Brandon, and I believe it's a he. If there's a she, apologies. The person wants to know how does the government review the urban planning process? Is there a date for the review? Given that we have different governments, it's a bit difficult to keep.
Yeah, I mean, nobody will be reviewing anything now with a general election kind of imminent, right? Then people stop reviews. Certainly the current tranche of funding with Deluxe is the final one that I'm aware of. And it's been, you know, this every government's got its own agenda, hasn't it? You know, so this has been the agenda for this government. They did the review. I can't remember what year it was. Whether another, you know, the next government actually makes a different choice, it probably will, you know, but at least things are moving. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question?
Right.
So I don't know when the next review will be. It's, yeah.
Okay. All right, we'll move to the next question. Renata wants to know if there are any standards such as ISO developing for information format input. Are there any standards with respect to digital twins?
Yeah, so there are. So the the, the best place to look is the National Digital Twin Programme. So if you go onto .gov, there, the other good repository of digital twin standards is the CBB, the Centre for Building Britain. That was done with the University of Cambridge. It's stopped now as an initiative. I had meetings with them, you know, so they've got things like the Gemini principles on there, which is all around how you do urban build, you know, to standards. So I would advise, you know, .gov and the National Digital Twin websites, plus also CBB.
Right. Okay. In terms of modeling, what services do you model? And obviously it depends on the potential development, but sorry, is it expected or do we expect to have things like, you know, transport, public utilities,
Yeah.
health services, education, etc., incorporated in the model?
Yes. So what happens at the moment is obviously if you've got a house, right, and you're going to have some building done on it, that doesn't that's too not in scope for the local authorities because it's too small, right? We do believe that there'll come a page, a point where you know a lot of these houses are kind of almost like templates. You know, you got the Bovis home or the you know somebody else's home, and basically you can get a model and stick it on like you would with Lego. Right, but so they have a threshold. Local authorities have a threshold. If the development is a major one, or you know some other criteria that isn't small but is somewhere in between, and that they don't all use the same kind of sizing standard, then yes, they will. So we've mapped for Reigate, for example, all the new station proposals. We've mapped the shopping precinct. We've done that. The market quarter in Wirral. So you know, it tends to be things of that size, you know, or it tends to be of regeneration schemes as well. So we did the whole of the participation exercise as well for the Wirral seafront. And that was good. We got some great ideas, you know, from especially from the kids. Some of them wanted like climbing walls on there, you know, and it was really good to get all those ideas on what they wanted to see on their waterfront.
Right. Okay. And the last question is, are you able to model dynamic data such as people leaving a sports venue, etc.?
Um, well, we don't do that. We could, right? So again, that's down to sensors, right, and being able to pick up those sensors. Yeah. And currently we don't do that. We have done it with traffic, so some sensors that sense traffic, so we can do, you know, we've proven that we can do that. But yes, you can do footfall. So I'm doing this with another company where we've done footfall over data over sound. So we've got a solution that kind of works like that for a major retailer. But that's more around alerting the security and cash points and things like that.
Right. Okay. Well, Sharon, thank you so much for this
Okay.
informative session. I really learned a lot. And yeah, over to you, Matt.
Thank you, Raymond. Thank you very much, Sharon. I hope everybody found that interesting and informative. And for that, we will close this evening. Thank you very much again, Sharon.